In the heart of Hollywood's golden age, amidst the glitz and glamour, a groundbreaking movement was born. A group of visionary artists came together with a bold mission to take creative control of their own destinies. This is the story of United Artists. United Artists was truly a game changer in the film industry. Founded in 1919 by the four legendary figures Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith. It was the first major studio to be owned and operated by artists themselves. At a time when studios had all the power, United Artists gave filmmakers the freedom to express themselves without interference. It was revolutionary. But United Artists' history is a bit hard to follow. It changed hands many times, and at one point it seemed like it was gone for good. So let's start where it all began. Charlie Chaplin couldn't get his parent company, First National Pictures, to increase the budget for his upcoming project. So Charlie's brother, Sidney, took matters into his own hands and went to talk with Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks, some of the biggest names in the industry at the time. They then hired a private investigator to find out if there was something going on. They found out that the major companies were planning a merger and also planned to lock in exhibition companies into 5-year contracts. First, we have to understand Hollywood was a very different place back then. Movie studios were vertically integrated, so they made the movies and they owned the theaters. They also owned the actors in a way, very similar to sports contracts nowadays. Imagine Tom Brady or Lionel Messi switching teams every couple of games just for the ratings. That's how movie producers viewed actors. Anyway, this was bad news for actors. It would mean that they had no other option but to oblige to the demands of the executives. So, on the 5th of February 1919, United Artists was born. Their first film was His Majesty the American by Douglas Fairbanks. By 1924, things weren't looking so good for United Artists. D.W. Griffith left the company. They made some rearrangements with Samuel Goldwyn and Howard Hughes and managed to secure more movies for the next year. Mary Pickford and Charlie Chaplin went on to buy theaters in Canada and Mexico under the name of United Artists. By 1930, United Artists had presence in over 40 countries. Another one of the partners, the veteran producer Joseph Schneck, didn't get his share of the deal. He basically set up this company, 20th Century Pictures, which basically provided most of the films for United Artists. So he then went on to help with the merger between 20th Century Pictures and Fox Film Corporation. I know we're used to seeing them together now, although they don't exist anymore. They are 20th Century Studios now, and they're owned by Disney. Funny enough, back then, other independent producers distributed through United Artists, such as Walt Disney Productions and David O. Selznick. Ironic, isn't it? That's the same Disney that later on purchased Fox. There were some issues later on with Selznick and Gone with the Wind. Since he wanted Clark Gable, he couldn't make it a United Artists release. By 1940, United Artists was bleeding money, so they had to sell their Mexican operation. In 1941, the Society of Independent Motion Picture Producers was formed, by many of whom were United Artists members, like Pickford and Chaplin, but also new names like Walt Disney and Orson Welles. The general idea was to fight back anti-competitive practices by Paramount, Columbia, RKO Radio Pictures, 20th Century Fox, and Warner/First National. The SIMPP successfully sued Paramount, and the Supreme Court of the United States of America gave the world what's known as the Paramount decision, basically ending the anti-competitive practice of the studios, not just Paramount. And that meant the death of the studio system. SIMPP was later dissolved in 1958. Here's where the story gets confusing. So, United Artists was in a very delicate financial situation. Basically, they had no money. Arthur B. Krim, Robert Benjamin, and Matty Fox came to Chaplin and Pickford with a proposal. They would take over the company for 10 years. If they made the company turn a profit in one of the next 3 years, they would get to buy half of the company after 10 years and gain full control. With this deal, the Fox Film Corporation loaned United Artists $3 million. And that's how United Artists became the first movie studio without a physical studio. They became what we know today as a production company, basically. They finance movies and then they turn a profit on that movie. This allowed them to not have to pay all the things that go along with having a physical studio, like staff, taxes, etc. In 1955, Chaplin sold his share for $1.1 million, and the following year, Pickford sold her share for $3 million. This way, ending any association of United Artists to any of the original founders. In the late 1950s, they had some successes such as Marty in 1955 and 12 Angry Men in 1957. Also in 1957, United Artists went public. For some time, unsuccessfully, they tried to become a record label under the name United Artists Records, but it didn't work, and they ended up selling it to EMI. There were some hits during this era. They made West Side Story, which won 10 Academy Awards, and their television division made shows such as Gilligan's Island and The Patty Luke Show. United Artists introduced to the American film audience the Beatles by releasing A Hard Day's Night and Help. They also produced the most expensive film ever made at the time, The Greatest Story Ever Told, in 1965, which had a price tag of $20 million. With those hits in mind, Transamerica Corporation went on and purchased 98% of United Artists stock, debuting the new logo. With Transamerica, they went on to produce films such as In the Heat of the Night and gave chance to new talent such as Woody Allen, Robert Altman, and Sylvester Stallone. In 1971, they distributed Woody Allen's Bananas. By 1973, United Artists took over the American sales and distribution of MGM films. In 1975, United Artists released their highest grossing film, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, grossing $163 million and won Best Picture in the Academy Awards. The following 2 years, they released Rocky and Annie Hall, both winning Best Picture. This made the studio the first one to win 3 consecutive Best Picture awards. At the same time, they were the one with the most Best Picture awards, 11. In 1979, United Artists had their most successful year. They released Rocky II, Manhattan, and Moonraker. By 1980, Transamerica decided to exit the movie-making business and put United Artists in the market. Transamerica Corporation purchased United Artists in 1981, the same Transamerica company who owned Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM. Now the films were released under the name MGM UA. They made 11 films, but only Poltergeist proved successful. Then, in 1985, Ted Turner announced that he would buy MGM UA. Yes, the same Ted Turner who founded CNN. The purchase was finalized by 1986 for $1.5 billion. Then, Kirk Kerkonian, the guy from the Transamerica Corporation, decided to repurchase most of United Artists back from Turner. But this wasn't United Artists as a whole. Kerkonian made essentially a new company and incorporated what he purchased back from Turner for over $400 million. So this was the official death of United Artists as a legal entity. Even if the new United Artists was named the same and had many of the assets from the original, it was a new entity. Then Turner got into financial hot water and had to sell MGM UA to none other than the new United Artists. See, I told you it would get confusing. So the assets were sold to United Artists for $300 million in 1986. The way everyone was passing around this company like it was a bottle of vodka at a party amazes me. United Artists was then renamed MGM UA Communications Company. Technically, at this point, United Artists was brought back from the dead, since it contained the same assets as the original one and more. In 1988, Turner tried to buy the company again, but it fell through. After 1990, United Artists was basically dead. They weren't releasing any films. By November 1990, an Italian financier purchased the company and renamed it MGM Pathé Communications, essentially killing the United Artists name from the company's name. But by 1996, the company was sold back to Kerkonian. Even Francis Ford Coppola tried to buy it at some point, but he couldn't. In 1999, United Artists was making very specific kinds of films, art house films, like they're called. They produced films like Bowling for Columbine, Hotel Rwanda, and 2001's No Man's Land. A partnership with Sony in 2005 meant all the films that were gonna be released under the United Artists brand were now gonna be released under the Sony Pictures Classics brand. By 2006, a new player came into the game, Tom Cruise and his producer Paula Warner, and they announced that they were resurrecting United Artists. With the new United Artists, the films Lions for Lambs and Valkyrie were made. Then Paula left United Artists. The last 2 films to bear the United Artists banner were 2009 Fame and 2010 Hot Tub Machine. Today, United Artists functions in name only, used for re-releases of classics mostly. But in 2014, MGM acquired 1-3 Media and Lightworkers Media, and the consolidation of both companies was called United Artists Media Group. In 2018, MGM revived the brand as United Artists Digital Studios for their Stargate Origins web series, but it didn't succeed. Then, finally in 2022, Amazon announced the purchase of MGM for $8.5 billion, marking the end of United Artists, at least until someone else decides to bring it back, like it happened many times before. Though the landscape of Hollywood evolved over the decades, United Artists' spirit of independence and creativity continues to inspire filmmakers to this day. Even if by the end of its existence they were no longer run by artists, nor they were united, the love of those who founded it still lingers to this day. As always, thank you for watching. See you next time.